Hi everyone, this is Lara Hammock from the Marble Jar channel, and in today's video I'm going to do an overview of the three most popular budgeting apps, Mint, YNAB, and EveryDollar. So if you've seen any of my previous budgeting videos, you'll know that I am a longtime Mint user, but that I have a fairly lengthy list of complaints about the software and its limitations. But because I am cheap, I haven't really been super motivated to check out some of the other options that charge a monthly fee, but many of you have asked for a comparison video. Plus, I volunteer as a financial mentor, and I was interested in other apps that might help some of my clients. So I checked a couple out. I'll admit that I was surprised by what I found, and perhaps you will be too. So in this first video, I'm just going to give an overview of the pros and the cons of each budgeting app and why someone might want to use each one. So first, let's talk about Mint. Pros. Mint's largest redeeming characteristic is that it is free. You have to deal with some annoying advertising blocks while viewing your budget and transactions, but free is free. And for free, Mint allows you to link your bank and your credit card accounts so that they can automatically import your transactions for easy budgeting. A couple of times a day, Mint syncs all of your linked financial institutions and pulls in the most recent transactions so you don't have to enter those manually. So that not only cuts down the work that you have to do, but it also ensures that you have accurate, up-to-date information. Mint then allows you to budget and categorize your transactions, but this is really not its strong point. That said, Mint will allow you to export transactions into a spreadsheet so that you can do your own calculations and run your own reports. It will also let you export a subset of transactions based on a search filter. Not bad for an app that is entirely free. Okay, so let's talk about the cons. There are many, unfortunately. The interface is confusing and requires quite a bit of practice before you can navigate around it well. Budgeting is a major weakness of Mint's. You can add new budget categories, but the default categories cannot be deleted, so you end up with this huge list to scroll through. Tagging transactions with new budget categories is annoying. New transactions are mixed in with old ones, so you have to sift through all the old ones in order to tag new ones properly. Plus, it's hard to choose a category from the long list, and many times the categories won't stick for no apparent reason. Rollover from month to month is not a default, and when you do turn it on for a category, the reporting becomes really confusing. And finally, the notifications are strange. Some notifications are just advertising, but the ones that let you know you've spent too much are not enduring, so they don't require any action on your part. So why use Mint? I think it's a solid app for tracking your finances and consolidating all of your transactions into one place for free so that you can export them to do your own reporting. It isn't very easy to use, and it's not very helpful for actual behavior change unless you happen to be one of the rare people who's willing to change their behavior solely on the basis of new info. You can certainly make it work, but it allows you to be pretty hands-off, which is generally a bad recipe for successful budgeting. Okay, now let's talk about YNAB. Pros. YNAB is an acronym for You Need a Budget. It has a beautiful interface and it's quite easy to use. For new transactions, YNAB defaults to the last budget category used for that vendor automatically. Vendor names are auto-filled, and when you need to balance a budget category, it doesn't require any calculations at all on your part. The phone notifications are fantastic. If you turn notifications on your phone, you will get notified for all new transactions and when you've exceeded your budget in a category. And the beautiful thing is that notification does not go away until you take care of the problem. This is key. It also makes the leftover amount for each budget category roll over to the next month by default, but only for positive amounts. This promotes savings and it helps you see where you're starting to accumulate money for future purchases. And finally, YNAB budgeting is based on a different ideology that is based on budgeting only money you actually have, not what you are forecasting to bring in. So this might seem like a slight change, but it is a different and more hands-on way of budgeting. This is probably why there is a bit of a cult built up around YNAB and its ideology, and why I put this ideological change in both the pros and the cons bucket. Speaking of cons, the first drawback is that YNAB charges a monthly fee of about $7 a month. That's not a ton, but it's certainly a consideration. The search function does not exist on the mobile app. You can export transactions, but you only have the option to export all of them, not a filtered set of transactions. YNAB's different ideology takes a little getting used to if you are more familiar with standard methods of budgeting. So as a result, the startup process can be really complicated. For example, you have to budget all of the money in your accounts, not just the money that you will be bringing in for that month. There's a fair amount of complexity built into the app, which requires a bit of a learning curve. I'm a budget nerd, so I prefer complexity to simplicity most of the time, but all the calculations, reports, and how YNAB deals with credit cards can be confusing and daunting if you're just starting out. So, why would you use YNAB? So I found it to be the best app for behavior change. The persistent notifications force regular interactions with the software. For example, you have to categorize new transactions, you have to fix budget categories where you've overspent, and you have to fund budget categories every time you get paid. It also forces a bit of realism since you can't budget money that you don't have yet. So it's particularly good for those who are trying to break the paycheck to paycheck cycle. The automatic rollover promotes saving a little every month to accumulate for bigger future purchases. And it's easy to use, but the system can be a little complicated to understand, particularly at the beginning. Okay, finally, let's talk about EveryDollar, both the free and plus versions. Pros. EveryDollar is Dave Ramsey's budgeting app. He has a free version, which does not allow you to link your bank and credit card accounts, so you would need to put in every transaction manually. The paid version syncs with your accounts, and it gives you access to Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace website, which is really not bad. His Financial Peace University gives you instruction and tools to get out of debt and to start saving regularly, and it helps you step by baby step through this process. The app is very simple and easy to use. You can start budgeting easily almost immediately. The search function is also great and is available on the mobile app as well. Okay, now for the cons. It is the most expensive of these apps at over $10 per month. That said, you do get access to all of his other resources for that price, so it might be worth it to you. Although EveryDollar also purports to subscribe to zero-based budgeting, meaning that you are forced to allocate every dollar, thus the name, you are still doing some forecasting with regard to income. So you forecast how much you're going to get paid this month, and then you use that forecasted amount to do your monthly budget. It's kind of like a mid-step between Mint and YNAB in this way. But it doesn't hold you quite as accountable to your actual income as YNAB does, and it doesn't require action when you exceed a budget category. So you only get notified when you have new transactions, and although you were supposed to ensure that all of your budget categories are at zero or swept into savings at the end of the month, as far as I can tell, the app does not force you to do this or yell at you to get this done. It's simple, but that means there aren't as many features like reports or other calculations that you might want to see. It's not super easy to use. It doesn't try to guess categories like YNAB does or help auto-populate vendor. And it is particularly hard to balance your budget at the end of the month since it doesn't do any of those calculations for you. And the deal breaker for me, there is no way to export data out of the app right now. So why would you use EveryDollar? The free version is actually much simpler and easier to use than Mint if you don't mind entering your transactions in manually. It doesn't represent as much of an ideology shift as YNAB. As I said, it's somewhere between Mint and YNAB in terms of budgeting ideology. It's not as easy to use as YNAB, but it is more simple and easier to understand. However, some may find it so simple that it lacks important functions such as transactions mapped back to bank accounts, basic reporting, or an export feature. EveryDollar also has a debt paydown feature, which I didn't try out, but that might be really helpful for some people. If you're a budget nerd, it's probably not the app for you, but if you prefer simplicity, this may be just the thing. So that's my overview of the pros and the cons of each of these three apps. And as a result of my research, I've switched over to using YNAB as my main budget app. I think the $7 per month value is worth the ease of use and the behavior change features since I save more than $7 per month using it. But as I've indicated, different apps are better for different folks, so you'll have to figure out which one best suits your need. So I've already done a series on Mint, so I'm going to spend the next couple of videos elaborating on the features of YNAB and EveryDollar and how they compare to each other and to Mint. Let me know what you think. Comments are always appreciated, and thanks for watching.